So here we are. We'll be drawing this interior on both, on paper and on a tablet. In my case, I'll be using an iPad Pro 12.9-inch. By the time we're done, you'll see the difference between these two drawing methods firsthand. When drawing on paper, I usually draw with a black pen. It gives my sketches a very cool architectural look. By the way, a lot of you have asked me which pen I use. Honestly, I accidentally found it in an art store and really liked the way it draws. When drawing digitally, all we need is an Apple Pencil or an alternative electronic pencil if you work with other devices than an iPad. You can find all types of brushes in the brush gallery of the drawing app. I think it's time to get started. Today we'll be drawing with a black pen directly. Make sure you have a sheet of paper or a sketchbook for that. Here's a great hack for you. Start drawing bigger elements first to quickly define a composition on your sheet, and then gradually move on to the smaller ones. Then the composition on your canvas will be under your control. We'll start by sketching the wooden shelf behind the sofa to define the whole composition, as I've said earlier. Then we'll be able to define where the back pillows will end. Note, use quick light strokes for that, and don't analyze each line, please. Next, draw the seat cushions. It is a quick sketch, so it shouldn't be super exact and realistic. This is not a realistic rendering, but a quick interior sketch. The sketch has a one-point perspective, where all lines converge at a single point. The vanishing point will be almost in the center, above the wooden element. Let's continue drawing. Now I want you to depict the volume of the seat cushions and make them puffy and comfortable to sit on. I want to add some hatching to the darkest areas. This is a cool hack if you want to add an artistic touch to your drawings. Right under the seat cushions we have a sofa base, or whatever you call it. Try to draw it in one line. Finish drawing it. On the right and left, we have two armrests. Draw them in perspective. Next, draw 3 sofa legs, one in the middle and 2 on both sides. I'll now quickly show where the wooden shelf ends. Later, we'll add pillows. The next thing we're gonna draw is the wooden panels on the shelf behind the sofa. Try to draw vertical lines at the same distance from each other. Of course, you can use a ruler to define it with precision. Simply mark the distance between the lines on the shelf and then add the lines at the spots of those serifs. However, this method may be a bit time-consuming, and since this is a quick sketch, I'll draw them manually by hand. Procreate, on the other hand, has a quick solution. To find the same distance from the elements, we use the 2D grid in the canvas settings. There, you can always adjust the grid size as needed. Back to our sketch. The next thing we're gonna draw is this tiny coffee table standing in front of the sofa. Draw an upper oval first. Please don't get discouraged if something goes wrong. You're here to learn, and I am here to show you all the possibilities and help you choose the right fit. I'm adding some hatching, and we'll now move on to the table legs. Draw the lines as quickly as you can. You know what? We can add barely visible shadows right under the legs to make the table and the sofa look like they're on the floor and not floating somewhere in the air. Now we'll switch to digital drawing. Since you don't have the custom brushes from our program, I'd suggest that you choose a brush from the ink and brush set category or any other brush you like. First, we're gonna define the position of the wooden shelf. Then, as you remember, we're gonna draw the back cushions. Next, draw the pillows. And then give them volume. The first cool thing about digital drawing is that you can adjust the composition of your sketch anytime. Look, we can make our sofa smaller or even adjust its form using the freeform selection mode. And that's all. You don't even have to start over. That is one of my favorite Procreate features, by the way. So let's continue drawing the sofa. Draw the armrests. Draw them in perspective as well. You can undo your previous actions anytime, which is not the case when drawing on paper. Finally, draw the sofa legs. I want to add more space to the canvas, and this time I'll do that with the help of the crop and resize feature. Go to Actions, Canvas, and click Crop and Resize. Move the reference picture to where it was before. And now you can finish drawing your sofa. Our first draft of the interior is done. Next, I want you to lower the opacity of this underline layer and then create a new one above. We're gonna set our perspective now. Go over to Drawing Assist and choose Perspective. Our vanishing point will be above the wooden shelf. Set it up based on the quick sketch we just created. Click Assisted Drawing On at the bottom and exit the menu. Make sure that Assisted Drawing is enabled. Now I want you to choose any color you like. I'll go with green, and then draw the upper and lower parts of the wooden shelf. Instead of drawing the wooden panels manually, we'll use the 2D grid. Go to the drawing guide settings and adjust the distance between the lines using the grid size slider at the bottom. Click Done and outline the lines. Before I continue drawing, don't forget to switch back to the perspective guide. Now we're gonna lower the opacity of this layer so that the lines don't distract us when drawing the sofa. On the new layer, enable Drawing Assist, change the color, and draw the footprint of the sofa, or whatever it is on the ground. Because based on that, we'll then build the sofa up. So first draw the footprint, or in other words, where it sits on the floor. Then I'm gonna change the color again to distinguish between all the lines and draw the height of the sofa legs. Depict the thickness of the sofa base. You always want to make sure that your lines connect in the corners so that everything lines up. Wait, for greater clarity, I'll add color to this base so you can differentiate all lines and rectangles. I'm gonna select it and then drag the color to it. Also, I'll decrease the opacity. I really hope it has helped you. Next, create a new layer on which we'll find the center of the rectangle. Draw 2 diagonal lines for that. Hold the pencil for a moment and the line will straighten automatically. And now with the Assisted Drawing feature activated, draw the leg at the spot where the diagonal lines cross. Draw the legs on the left and right as well. We aren't able to see the back leg as it's hidden behind the sofa. Okay, great. The next thing we'll be doing is to draw a vertical line to define the center of the seat cushion. Let's go back to the upper layer and change the color. I'll be drawing with orange. First, we're gonna define the height of the cushions. They'll end about here, or even a little bit lower. Connect all the lines. The perspective lines really distract me, so I'm gonna turn them off. Much better. So back to our seat cushion. I'll show you a very useful hack. I want you to create a new layer first, on which you're gonna activate Join Assist. Then mark where the left cushion will end. Make sure you draw the horizontal line too. Then swipe the layer to the left and click Duplicate. Flip the lines horizontally, turn the magnetics feature on, and move the lines to the right. Squeeze these two layers together. For greater clarity, I'll add color to the cushions so you can differentiate them better. Then drag the color inside the selected area. I think that we can merge all the layers with our framework. I'll be drawing on this resulting layer. So, and now connect all the lines so that everything lines up perfectly. You see how with the help of all these layers we're able to construct our interior correctly, because the paper sketch was literally drawn by eye. Let's move on to the armrests and sketch their framework. Project the height of the right armrest. Another great advantage of digital drawing is when you can use all these auxiliary lines which won't affect the final version of the drawing at all. And as usual, I'll add color to the front side of the armrest for greater clarity. Only the back cushions are missing, which we're gonna construct on the top layer now. Behind those, we also have the back frame, which is lower, so let's depict it first. Then project the center of the seat to the back part. This will help us draw two proportionally correct back cushions. At this point, you can still adjust the proportions, and I recommend doing that now before the final contours. So we can finally turn the initial draft layer off. The next step is to lower the opacity of all construction layers so they won't distract us when drawing final contours. And on a new layer, let's create the final interior. For contours, I usually use black. Select Drawing Assist in the new layers settings and start outlining the sofa base. Another hack. But wait, before that, I'll get rid of this random line. With the rectangular selection mode, we'll now select the legs and then drag the leg color into the selected area. This way, we really save time instead of coloring each leg manually. Okay, perfect. Next, I want you to disable Drawing Assist in the layer. We'll now be rounding off the corners. In other words, making the sofa three-dimensional and real. Draw using quick light strokes, and at the risk of repeating myself, don't analyze each line, because if you do, your lines won't be as airy and lively as they could be. As you can see, I'm drawing rounded shapes within those rectangles. At this stage, you can show your drawing style and your personality. You see how easily you can zoom in and out of the canvas. Sometimes when drawing on paper, I try to zoom in on the sheet, which is really absurd. I don't know, have you experienced something like that? Please tell me I'm not alone. Anyway, let's continue drawing. I use rounded shapes to smooth out the corners and draw characteristic lines, so to speak. Now draw the right armchair. Great job! It's time for another digital sketching hack. First, I want you to find the middle of the sofa. Then go over to the drawing guide menu and choose the symmetry guide. Place this vertical line right in the middle of the sofa. That's important, it should really be in the center. Then create a new layer, activate Drawing Assist and start drawing the left side. You'll see that everything you're drawing on the left will be projected on the other side. This is how you can speed up the drawing process. Now I'm gonna switch back to the perspective. I'm not a huge fan of the symmetry guide, to be honest, because the object may look too symmetric, you know? Continue drawing the seat cushions with the assisted drawing turned off. Now you can add more character to them and make it, again, less symmetric. Once again, we're drawing above the framework layer. You see how helpful it is to work on multiple layers. Imagine if you had to erase everything on paper and then draw the neat contours above the erased elements. And when drawing digital, you can either create a new layer, erase unneeded elements, or simply undo the previous actions. I'm already drawing the back pillows. The principle is the same. Draw in your style and don't concentrate on being perfect. Remember, this is what you need to cultivate. Your uniqueness is your own personal stamp. It's what distinguishes you from everybody else. So, I've almost finished drawing the back cushions. How about you? Don't forget to add the rear frame behind the cushions. Only the throw pillows are missing. Before drawing them, I turn all the construction layers off so that we see the neat contours only. We'd need a new layer to draw the pillows. If needed, look at the reference picture to see them better. I'll start with the smallest one on the left. When drawing pillows, draw them puffy. They shouldn't look like flat sheets of paper. Depict their folds and try to depict their fabric. This is the third pillow from the left. Make sure it's not sitting on the sofa edge. There should be enough space to sit down. This pillow is almost lying above the other pillows, so let's depict that as well. Don't be afraid to experiment with their shapes, really. In digital drawing, you can do that without any restrictions and try as many times as you want. I'm now drawing the last big pillow, which is lying above the tiny pillow. Time to show you some magic. After you're finished, go back to the layer with the sofa and erase the lines which we can't see behind the pillows. Easy as pie. Right, we drew the sofa on 2 layers, so make sure you switch them and erase the rest. Finally, erase the unwanted lines of the pillows themselves. Looks great. Let's now combine all these 3 layers into one. And now back to our paper drawing. There we have 1 layer only, so to speak, and if you're drawing with a gel pen and not a pencil, you can't erase it. That means that you can't make revisions for your client if they need fewer pillows on the sofa. Oops! Sure, you can add hatching and color to it, but these lines can be 100% hidden. Of course, it is unique artwork. I'd say know your end goal. Okay, it's time to get back to our iPad. Turn on the layer with a wooden shelf construction. We'll be outlining it on the top layer. But what we can first do is to place this element a little bit lower, as in the reference picture. Use the freeform selection mode for that. And afterward, outline everything. Outline the visible parts only. I think outlining is definitely one of the easiest parts when drawing. Outline and meditate, that's all. Here we go. We can actually combine all the framework layers together and after that turn the resultant layer off. There is a rack in front of the sofa, make sure you drew it. Let's now add a shelf hanging above the sofa. Also depict its depth. Next, we'll be drawing the coffee table. To do so, create a new layer. We'll start drawing with an oval. First, draw it as you can. Then hold the pencil for a second at the end and the menu edit will appear at the top. This is how you can adjust your shape. Another cool hack. To check if the oval lies horizontally, draw a horizontal line on a new layer. Then go back to the oval layer, go up to the arrow above and make sure that both of the blue dots lay on this line. If yes, delete the auxiliary line. Now create a duplicate of the first oval by swiping the layer to the left and then place it right under the first one. Use the magnetics feature for that. When you're done, erase the invisible lines of the second oval. After that, activate Drawing Assist and finish drawing the tabletop. That was another cool hack for speeding up the process. Then squeeze these two layers together. To draw the legs, select Drawing Assist and draw straight vertical lines. This is pretty self-explanatory and easy to draw. Just try to make your legs more or less the same thickness. Since we have drawn the coffee table on a separate layer, you can move it anywhere you want. You can even adjust its shape. When you're 100% sure that the position of the table won't change, erase the lines of the sofa from the table. So, I think it's time to share another incredibly useful hack with you. First of all, we have to create a new layer and activate Drawing Assist on it. Then draw the approximate height of all picture frames. And of this one too. Then on a new layer and with the assisted drawing enabled, draw a rectangle. Next, watch carefully. With the distort feature activated, lean the pictures on the wall. The auxiliary lines will help you see the perspective and lean the picture frame correctly. Repeat the same action with the remaining frames. Instead of drawing every single one from scratch, we simply duplicate the first one and adjust the shape if needed. I mean, how handy is this feature? I do love pencil drawings, but all the opportunities digital drawing has are simply incredible. As usual, erase the unwanted lines. The fourth picture frame can be added in the same way. Merge the layers with the picture frames at the end, and the layer with the perspective lines can be deleted. Now let's add those frames to our pencil drawing. Here you have to draw them manually. On the other hand, the inaccuracies have their own charm in my opinion. You can schematically add the photos inside the frames if you like. I'm kind of curious. Are you getting used to drawing digital? Is it difficult? Or was it more difficult before if you've been drawing for some time? When you draw a circle on paper, it's pretty obvious. You just draw a circle as you can. However, even here Procreate can help us enormously. First, I want you to draw a circle as best as you can. After, hold the pencil down for a second and this pop-up menu appears. There, choose circle. And here's your perfect circle. And finally, we'll now add 2 vases standing on the wooden shelf. Don't concentrate on being perfect. It's actually very interesting when you combine straight lines with these quick lines and hatching. The second vase will have a rectangular shape, so use Join Assist to draw it. If need be, disable it. As we are drawing close to the horizon line, the neck of the vase will almost be flat. Don't forget to draw the vases on your paper drawing. Well, at this stage, there is almost no difference between digital and paper. Again, draw in your style. The more you draw, the more you'll develop your style. Basically, that's it. After this stage, you normally add color to your drawing. Based on the end goal of your drawing, you can define how many more details you want to add to it, or how long you're going to take to finalize it. Notice that you started with just a couple of lines, and look what you've ended up with. Take a moment to pat yourself on the back. And keep in mind that this is just the first step. It only gets better from here. How do I know? Because I've been there. During my interior design studies, I was a huge fan of using interior drawing in my work. Also, I was creating projects on my own and visualizing them with the help of real materials. I'm gonna show you some of those drawings. This interior drawing was created during my plateau period, when I was completely lost in terms of style and how to break through it and reach a new level of skill. Even though I'd been drawing every single day, my skills were stuck at the same level. Should I use watercolors only, or should I switch to markers? Wait, what about hatching? These drawings actually look pretty good, fresh and interesting, but there is no structure at all. I couldn't pick one topic, one style and work on it. Now here you see interiors drawn with pencil and an architectural drawing created in a mixed technique. You know that feeling when you really passionately want something, but despite trying many things out, you're not moving forward. Well, this is exactly how I felt back then. There was a significant event in my life that changed everything. Right after I finished my studies, I received a dream job offer at a design studio where I had always wanted to work. But due to the pandemic, it was called off. After that event, I decided to combine both my passions and work independently. I bought 3 courses on interior design and architectural drawing, and this is when I made the biggest breakthrough in my skills. I started growing professionally 15 times faster and eventually found my style, which includes my all-time favorite hatching, which you can see. And thanks to the environment of those courses, I became incredibly confident because I knew there were people like me where I could ask for advice from people who'd been there and done that. So they knew exactly how I felt and helped me to overcome those struggles. And this is one of our biggest goals at the Academy, to provide you with the knowledge you need to make your own breakthrough, fall in love with your work, get inspired by it, and simply do what you love.